All right, guys. So I started recording a video yesterday morning about what we need to do as far as the elections go moving forward and some other things. I'm going to splice that in here. My phone was like way full of videos. I have a 1-year-old. I take a lot of videos. So, in any case, I'll play that right after this and follow up on some of that stuff. All right, guys, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. I figured something out. See, the whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing with, what was it, $7 billion that just disappeared overnight, just funny money that was pumped into the economy that he had, that investors gave him, that just went poof, right? Well, that's the real Inflation Reduction Act, because the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed by Congress recently was just a big Green New Deal with a new name slapped across it. But there's some irony there. There's some irony to all of this and the whole thing. And, of course, Trump mean the destruction of America. And like how he didn't win and yada, yada, yada. Or his candidates didn't do so well and whatever else. Yet the Republicans that are part of the Freedom Caucus are going in the House, and they are going to hold Kevin McCarthy to account. In fact, every month or so, or every other month, they'll be able to take a vote to call for a new speaker, something Nancy Pelosi is afraid of. So this is quite wonderful, as the Freedom Caucus will be able to leverage and pressure the Republican Party to actually maybe do something. And hopefully they'll have some committees. Now, I don't expect anything to actually be done from it, but look, the Bankman-Fried scandal is something huge to look into, as well as the laundering that has occurred from the Ukraine thing, right, through him. And also now the FEC is going after Elon, and there's been threats from Ed Markley toward Elon and a bunch of people wishing to back that up. In any case, look, the system is totally out of control, right? And hopefully these few dozen people that got in can do something about it, right? Hopefully they can actually maybe have some indictments. I'm not that hopeful. All right, guys, if you haven't noticed, my phone's filled with a lot of space, but I had to keep cutting these and splicing them in. But anyways, back to about where I got cut off at, and that is, I am not that hopeful that a lot of things will change. You have to think local. And I think the best thing that you can do locally is obviously get politically involved to your ability. But man, if you are capable, if you are a young person and you have the gumption and the not the know-it-all, the wherewithal and the knowledge, you can put those things together and build local businesses. We can start building local communities and networks so that we can be sustainable despite the great reset agendas, despite the global supply chain things. Then we might have a shot in this in the long run, right? But for now, on the federal level, we need to be supporting these candidates. We need to start getting out and getting, we need to harvest the ballots if it's legal in your area. Have to do it. They didn't. In California, they got congressmen in for doing just that. They were able to start their own ballot harvesting programs on the right. And, I look at all kinds of different sources, all kinds of different things. I live in the area. In fact, I work in the area partially that Tim Pool describes in Maryland. I grew up there in Western Maryland. I work in the county Tim Pool lives in West Virginia. I live in the county over. All right, so the
where I got cut off at, which I'm just going to leave in because whatever. It was talking about the elections, and Tim Pool's been bringing up Western Maryland. Now, I grew up in Western Maryland. I grew up in Hagerstown, Maryland. Tim's studio, the Cass Castle, is in that county that I grew up in. I live in like the county over across the border, and from where he's at, I work in both those counties. So the point is that yes, Tim is correct in that this area is extremely red. Now, I brought up a while ago the gerrymandering that they were doing in Maryland to rig the system, and Western Maryland was talking about secession from Maryland and joining West Virginia potentially. And actually, that's where I would like to see the future of things go. I'd like to bring in Garrett, Allegheny, and Washington County into West Virginia, as well as maybe some of the bordering counties in Virginia if Virginia does not get itself straight. Of course, there are all kinds of other things, like we could look into, I don't know, let's say a state electoral system where the cities don't overwhelm the counties, the rural areas. I believe Razorfist talks about this all the time, the Rageaholic, right? And this was actually a thing that did exist in some states, but on the federal level, they basically made sure that it was gotten rid of. Another issue is Scott Pressler, right? Guys like Scott Pressler being on the ground. A lot of people are talking about Scott, Salty's talking about him, Dr. Stephen Turley. I don't know if he's brought him up, but I know Tim has. Some other people I've been watching. And the reality is that Scott has done a lot, and he's only one man, and we need more people on the ground like that. But since I mentioned Stephen Turley, let's go back to him because he brought up the point yesterday. This was, again, later after I had recorded the earlier videos, that essentially in California, they learned how to ballot harvest with the Republicans, and it worked. And so they got seats because of that. So we can do this. It doesn't matter how rigged the system is if we exploit it just like they do. And that's the key here. We have to work on their level. We don't like it. We want election day, but it is possible to potentially beat this machine. But regardless, again, focus locally. Now, right now in West Virginia, we have a Republican supermajority. I believe Florida has a Republican supermajority, which is good. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not super trusting of the Republicans, but perhaps we are getting more liberty-minded, more populist, more Goldwater, Ron Paul-style Republicans in, and that would be amazing. And perhaps we could see real liberty in our nation once again, something we haven't seen here in, well, since the progressive era back in the 1920s. So, or the beginning of the progressive era, if however you want to frame that, because we had a very free market laissez-faire system, and people were getting extremely rich in the 1920s, and then all of a sudden, the bankers decided to crash the economy. And with that as well, we need to build our local economies because the global system is not going to work for us. They're purposely destroying it. We're looking at going to a digital a digital Federal Reserve currency, while a gold currency is going to compete in the BRICS system. So lots of things are going to happen, and it's going to be really hard, but there are ways for us to organize. And my plans and my goals right now I have several projects, including the Synthetic Society book that I was wanting to get out before the election, but I actually think that it's a good thing that I had to wait on that. And it was merely just because I've needed to work. Things came up financially, so I've been needing to work and work a lot. But with that, I thought, well, there's a ton of information I want to get in this, so it's going to give me more time to get it out. And the plan for me, it's a very big plan, but is to build some businesses that I can get some income on, write these books that I want to write, because that's me. Whether they do well or not, that's another issue. But I want to basically amass some wealth to then be able to build a community, a town, to get some land and whatever else. And then lo and behold, last night, I'm watching the old Timcast, and then they were mostly just joking around most of the show, talking about Ligma Johnson. But they were talking about building a town. Tim was talking about getting land and leasing it to people and whatever else. And this has been the plan I've been developing for a long time. It actually kind of annoyed me. I messaged my wife, she's out of town, and was like, Tim Pool's talking about the stuff I want to do. Urgh. But I don't have the kind of wealth that he has. And honestly, I think that it's a matter of, if you are able to build wealth and you want to do these things, right, you have to reinvest it so that you can build more wealth. It's all about getting into a position. And we don't have a lot of time. We have until 2030 at least, maybe. But you think by 2026, things aren't going to be really bad, especially if we continue with this idiocracy that we live in, this clown world where the Democrats rule everything and the bureaucracy runs the entire state. Now, I will say that, again, I recorded the video yesterday, early in the morning, and I was talking about Republicans coming after the Bidens and maybe Sam Bankman-Fried and whomever else, and we'll get our investigations. I don't know if anything will happen. And then, of course, later that afternoon, they announced that they were going to do this. Rand Paul is talking about going after Dr. Fauci. So hopefully we will get something, at least on the record, regardless if anything criminal happens to these people. So a lot there. And sorry if I jumped around a bit, but there's a lot to talk about. And I'm not producing content as much. I kind of wanted to stream today, but I have to leave here in about 10 minutes to go pick up my wife from the airport. So, such is life. But yeah, I probably will start streaming again sometime soon. There's a lot of stuff with the election. I'd really like to get a long form video, a streaming video talking about all the good parts, all of the wins that we had, and also get some of the discrepancies, if you would. And Western Maryland is a perfect example of that. And I think it has absolutely everything to do with mail-in voting. Like, look, guys, Hagerstown, Maryland has a little regional airport in it. And back in 2015, Donald Trump visited it because he knew that was MAGA country. I still worked at the sheriff's department there at the time. I remember talking to guys. I knew a couple guys that went to the rally. Wasn't sure about Trump then. Still not completely sold on the guy, but hey, man, let him have his chance. Let him do his thing. And perhaps we can get this country turned around on the federal level. But again, think local. Anyways, guys, that's all I have. Thanks for watching. This has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.